So, a common nutrition question that we hear a lot in the line of work I'm in is that I keep feeling hungry even right after a meal and having a full glass of water. Why is this, and what can I eat to help prevent this feeling after a meal? So, the most important variable to examine here then is going to be what exactly is in that meal. What are they eating? Breaking it down to a nutrient level of how much carbohydrates, protein, fat, and most importantly, how much fiber. What I'm really getting at here is that aside from perhaps some habit related changes, fiber is the missing puzzle piece in helping you to feel full and satisfied and to reduce your impetus to eat. So we're going to begin by answering the question, what is fiber? Dietary fiber is defined as a food portion derived from the cell wall of plants and is poorly digested by humans. So in the US, the dietary fiber recommendations are 38 grams per day for men and 26 grams per day for women. These requirements can vary from country to country as well. Many of the food items that we see in our grocery stores, usually in those middle aisles, not around the perimeter of the store, these items are often enriched with fiber and other nutrients due to their initial low fiber content, and also to make them a little bit more marketable to individuals trying to be a little bit more health conscious. But make no mistake, the best way to get fiber in your diet is from whole, real foods, such as vegetables and fruits and some grains. So some of the main benefits of fiber are going to include reducing your risk of coronary and heart disease and certain kinds of cancer as well. Actually, let's take a moment to list all of the benefits of dietary fiber. So the first one we're going to talk about is decreased intestinal transit time. So that means your food's going to move through you a little bit quicker, which is good. A greater excretion of fat and protein as opposed to it being stored in your body as fat. It delays glucose absorption. So in other words, it helps to control blood sugar and insulin levels, which is really beneficial for diabetics or anyone who's pre-diabetic, needs to get their blood sugar under control. It also helps to maintain your intestinal microbiota. So maybe you don't need that kombucha after all, but that's a whole other topic for another day. It helps with energy production. It has prebiotic effects, which we'll talk about in a minute, and it also helps to prevent colon cancer, and we'll talk about that as well. It enhances immune system function. It has hypercholesterolemic effects, meaning it helps to lower your cholesterol, which is good. And as I said before, prevention of cardiovascular diseases. And lastly, and most importantly, and it's the crux of my answer to this question, is it helps to increase satiety. So what is satiety? Satiety is the feeling of being full after a meal. In other words, in addition to being physically full, you are mentally full as well, if that makes sense. An indication of not being satiated is physically having eaten enough food, but mentally still having an appetite to eat more food. Like you eat dinner and you feel like you ate enough, but in your mind you're like, I still want to munch on some chips or something like that. This is what leads to overeating, especially if your diet is composed of mostly refined, nutrient-poor foods. So moving on, dietary fiber is divided into two categories. We have soluble fiber and insoluble fiber. Soluble fibers, when in our body, are viscous and fermentable. So we'll talk about this fermentation in just a moment. Insoluble fiber helps to create that bulk effect in our diet, in our digestive tract, binding water, which aids in regularity of gastric emptying. Even within these two categories, there are further still all these different types of fiber: beta-glucans, cellulose and hemicellulose, chitin, chitosan, fructans, gums, linens, non-digestible dextrins, non-digestible oligosaccharides like inulin and galacto-oligosaccharides, pectin, polydextrose, resistant starches. You get the point. Moving on. Soluble fiber is associated with that prebiotic effect that I had recently mentioned. It's related to that fermentation process in your body, which produces short chain fatty acids. One of these fatty acids from this process has a protective effect against tumorigenesis, or the growth of tumors. Hence, that whole protects against certain types of cancer thing. And another fatty acid from this process is also related to the hypercholesterolemic effects of fiber, reducing cholesterol levels. So, without getting too much further into all of the different mechanisms of the benefits of fiber, it's time to get to the meat and potatoes of my answer to this question. Fiber is related to expression of appetite and satiety, and essentially helps to dictate the amount of energy or food that you're consuming. So, most importantly, the biggest takeaway from this are threefold. Diets rich in dietary fiber have a lower energy density. So, in other words, you're still maintaining your food volume, you're eating enough food, your caloric intake is going to be lower, but it's going to help to prevent overconsumption because you're going to have that feeling of fullness a little bit sooner. Fibrous foods require more chewing time. So, for example, take a Brussels sprout versus, a slice of white bread. It's going to be a little bit harder to chew and swallow. The Brussels sprout, it's going to take a little bit more time. So that limits eating too quickly to promote the secretion of saliva and gastric juices, resulting in a little bit of gastric distension and, in the end, satiety. And lastly, it slows gastric emptying. Which further increases satiety and slows the absorption of lipids or fats and glucose, and it also slows your insulin secretion as well. Some studies have shown an inverse relationship between consumption of dietary fiber and body weight and body fat. So that means that if your fiber intake increases, your body weight and or body fat may also decrease as well as a result of that, especially if you're consuming it from plant sources. So if I had to sum all of this up in one sentence, when it's all said and done, is that a diet high in fiber from plant sources will help you feel fuller with an optimal energy intake without reducing the volume of food you're eating. So you're not going to feel like you're starving yourself, hence reducing that urge to eat after a meal. But why plant sources? It is important to note that the fiber in foods like fruit and vegetables have a more balanced composition of the different types of fiber, all those crazy names that I mentioned earlier in this video, a more balanced composition than, say, fiber-fortified cereals and bars and things like that. So to experience some of these amazing benefits of fiber, it's important to consume greater than 25 grams per day. And high fiber foods that you can incorporate into your diet include raspberries, blueberries, asparagus, broccoli, apples, prunes, lentils, pinto beans, peanut butter, barley, rolled oats, green peas, garbanzo beans, baked potatoes, spinach, Brussels sprouts, bananas, pears, just to name a few. You get the point. And the kicker, all of these foods are delicious and so easy to incorporate into your daily diet. So that is my answer. That is hopefully how you can help to feel a little bit fuller throughout your day and reduce that urge to eat even after eating a full meal.